Let's hear from Dak Prescott following the victory.
As you said, getting CD going, big-time playmaker, getting him some catches. In the second drive there, led to a touchdown. Able to overcome some penalties even on that drive. Get there in the third drive, they leave him one-on-one, able to attack that. After Luke on a big fourth down conversion, it was huge. But we've got to build off of those drives and continue to go. Didn't finish the way that we wanted to, not to our standard. Left in the hands of the defense, which is credit to those guys for finishing, getting it done, not allowing any touchdowns. But we're an offense that can finish better and score more touchdowns than we did tonight. So we've got to look at ourselves in the mirror and go get that done.
And Mike, and what he's talking about is we have to be tougher in the run game. We know that they can pass the ball, but sometimes your passing game will not work. Sometimes you have to totally rely on that run game. And they don't have a run game that they can totally depend on. They just don't. And that's why the Dallas Cowboys offensively, you're going to see in 1 week, high flying, everything's working. Next week, they're going to struggle. And then 1 week, you say, how did this team come in and beat them? Because they can't run the football. And you think they're going into Pittsburgh next week and they're going to be able to drop back and pass all over the place with TJ Watt and those boys coming, Cameron Hayward in the interior of that defense. It's not going to happen. You have to be able to run the ball. You have to have some level of balance. And we've seen Dak Prescott at times be average. It's not like he's always setting the world on fire out there, so I just think that you have to implement that run game, especially when you're playing against teams like the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then you got to deal with the Detroit and their big offensive line and defensive line. It's going to be tough for the Cowboys the next couple of weeks, Mike.
It's an excellent point, Rodney, and it's probably one of the reasons why the owner of the team, Jerry Jones, gets a little touchy when he's asked about why they didn't pursue Derrick Henry, who had a cap number this year of only $5.1 million with the Ravens. The Cowboys could have made that work. They chose not to. They made their assessment that they didn't want Derrick Henry. When Jerry Jones says we couldn't afford him, that's a load of crap. They could have. They made the decision not to. And think of how much better the Cowboys would be this year if they could rely on Derrick Henry in the run game to balance out the pass game and to have an answer for those defenses that are able to take away Dak Prescott's ability to get the ball to CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Derrick Henry, for the life of me, I thought this was going to be a deal done. I just felt like it was a perfect situation for Derrick Henry to come in there and really give them the toughness. Remember the toughness that Isaiah Pacheco gave the Kansas City Chiefs when he first became a starter? Just the energy, the excitement. That's what I was looking for when the Dallas Cowboys, when I thought they were going to sign Derrick Henry. He wasn't asking for a ton of money. He was asking for like $8 million a year, or at least they settled for $8 million a year. But to have a guy like him, the intimidation factor, and I even look at the Giants. I mean, you look at Saquon Barkley. Imagine if Saquon Barkley was in that backfield with Daniel Jones playing with the composure that he's playing with. I mean, it's a totally different offense. You can't take a average running back and replace him with Saquon Barkley and think you're going to have these big time numbers. Saquon Barkley is a great player. He's a superstar for a reason, and you can't replace these superstars with these average running backs. You can't. And for the life of me, it was a huge mistake not to sign Derrick Henry. He gives you that intimidating factor. He gives you just that confidence, and on third down and short, fourth down and short, he's going to get you those key yards.
I wonder how differently the Cowboys would have viewed Henry, how differently the Giants would have viewed Saquon if they'd known the first 4 weeks of the season would skew, for whatever reason, toward the run. And having a great running back, what a difference it's making for the Eagles to have Saquon Barkley. I think if the Giants had known he was going to make a beeline right down I-95 to Philadelphia, they wouldn't have let him out the door.
But Mike, what difference does it make? Mike, what difference does it make where he goes? If you want the player, you get the player. And that was a terrible fumble. That was a terrible fumble by the Giants. You don't let a guy walk out the door and now he becomes free. And you know that your arch nemesis has an opportunity to grab him, Mike.
That's my point. It makes it worse that he went to Philadelphia. Without him, it's one thing. You don't have to deal with him twice a year. You're not constantly reminded of every big run that he has, like the 65-yarder that was the game changer on Sunday in New Orleans. And when you look at 1.08 yards per carry without Saquon Barkley. Think of what that offense could be. The offensive line's better this year. They have Malik Neighbors, who is incredible. He left the game late with a concussion. He posted on social media that he's fine. He'll have to go through all the steps. They have a few extra days before their next game. So who knows? We routinely see guys come back the game after a concussion. But he has been a superstar so far. If you have Neighbors and Barkley, yeah, Daniel Jones all of a sudden looks a lot better, and he's not worried about his future in New York. That's the place where you want to be the quarterback because you got those two weapons under contract for multiple years into the future.
And that's what I didn't understand about the Giants. I mean, if you're going out and you're trying to build a team, you're trying to build an offense, how do you build it without Saquon Barkley? I don't understand. You will keep Daniel Jones, a guy that you have a ton of question marks about. But Saquon Barkley, you will not sign him to a long-term deal, a guy that gets the ball, that is dynamic, catch out of the backfield, great locker room guy. What more do you want? You want the guy to play for half the salary or free? I just don't get it.
And that's where the Giants got themselves twisted up. And this is why they shouldn't have done the offseason Hard Knocks show, because we all got a glimpse into how they were thinking. They drank the Kool-Aid on this idea that running backs are just interchangeable parts. It's like a wheel on a car. Oh, we got wheels everywhere. We'll take one wheel off. We'll put another wheel on. Well, all wheels are not created equal. Saquon Barkley, and this was one of the arguments that was made when they had these meetings that never should have been broadcast to the world, where we see, people in the room saying, are we sure about this? Are we, this guy's different than just whatever running back. Yeah, you could throw a rock and hit a running back, but you can't throw a rock and hit Saquon Barkley. And you've given him extra motivation. That makes it even worse. You've given him to your division rival. You're right. What a different game that would have been last night if Saquon Barkley is playing for the Giants and or if Derrick Henry's playing for the Cowboys.
And of course, you have to look at the decision makers. You got to look at the guys in the room that are making these decisions. I mean, if the general manager, what general manager gets rid of Saquon Barkley, a guy that's in his prime? The first few years, you kind of learn. He goes through his ups and downs with the injuries, but he's always been a good dude to have around in the locker room. And now he's healthy. He's able to play, and you decide not to allow him or not to sign him to a contract, which was absolutely ridiculous. You don't let a guy like Saquon Barkley walk up out of there. And how do you become better? Because you become cheaper? No, you don't become better. The offensive line is better, like you talked about. You saw Daniel Jones playing with a lot more confidence and a lot more poise in the pocket because he's not scared after a second he's going to get his head ripped off. And just imagine if Saquon Barkley's behind that offensive line.
Bottom line, they need a running game. The Cowboys need more of a running game. The Giants need any running game at this point to complement what they're doing in the passing game. At a time when the NFL is skewed toward a lot of running, the two teams we saw last night desperately need to address that area of their offenses, Rodney.
But it has to be a commitment to running the football. You can't just try to run the ball 10 or 11 times and then say, you know what, we're not having success. We're going to go away from it. We're going to let Daniel Jones be the savior of our team. You have to be able to commit to running the football, especially when you look at the Cowboys and the way they got pushed around by the Ravens last week. You talk about their offensive line, man, they're getting pushed around. They're getting bullied. And for the life of me, I don't understand why the Giants won't just come out. And Brian Daboll is a good offensive coordinator. I mean, you look at the job that he did with Josh Allen when he was out in Buffalo. I mean, I think this guy, he knows his stuff. He was with me in the Patriots for some years. So I know he knows what he's doing. But I do believe that, just committing to running the football and saying, okay, we're paying Daniel Jones $45, $50 million. We're just going to let him sling it around. Yeah, he's gotten better. He's shown a level of patience, but he's still not that guy. He needs a run game to help supplement him.
He was a receivers coach in New England, right?
Yes.
I could just imagine, and I have heard nothing to support this. I could imagine number 37 out in the middle of the field yakking at the receivers coach saying, is this all you can put out here on the field? Is this all you got? These guys are horrible.
Yeah, that's happened more than once. Trust me, we've gotten into it plenty of times.
All right, let's hear from Daboll on the... Go ahead.
Daboll's a good dude, though. I'm sorry, Mike. Daboll's a good man. He's a good man.
Let's hear from Daboll on the performance of his quarterback, who has been much criticized, and his performance has kind of improved. What did he think of what he saw from Jones last night? Here he is.
Yeah, no, 3 games in a row. I'm proud of the young man. He's made good decisions. He's thrown the ball where he needs to throw the ball. I mean, the last play to Hyatt, that's heave it down there and see if we can get a DPI, or we can go up and try to make a play. But I thought, for 3 games he's been locked in. He's played well. He's seen the field. He's delivered the ball where he needs to. Again, we had some opportunities to continue drives today as well. So I'm proud of how he's performed, how he's prepared. He's done a nice job for us.
They got overwhelmed week 1 by the Vikings defense led by Brian Flores, and there's just a chance that that's the best defense they're going to see all year. He's gotten better since then. They should have beaten the Commanders. He played better in that game. If they would have had a kicker on the active roster that day, they probably would have won that game. Then they win in Cleveland with a couple of touchdown passes to Malik Neighbors. So Jones has gotten better. They didn't score a touchdown last night, which, it's hard to win football games when you're relying upon field goal. But I've seen some improvement. I know Giants fans are still very skeptical, but it's moving in the right direction. Where it goes from here, they're 1-3. Where it goes from here, they got to win football games, or it's going to be a done deal when the season ends. They can get out of the contract after this year, and they will.
Well, I think this year so far, I think it is heading in the right direction. But there's a lot of pressure on Daniel Jones. I don't see Daniel Jones as being that guy that can take them far in the playoffs. I just don't. He's a good kid. He works hard. He tries to do the right thing. He's a good athlete. I mean, he's a solid athletic guy. But I just don't see that. I just don't see enough in Daniel Jones where I believe that he's going to take them to the NFC playoffs and take them and be able to go on the road and win a wild card game or anything like that. I just don't see it. I like the kid. I think he works extremely hard. But I just don't think they have enough around him. They have to have a running game. And, you go from Saquon Barkley to this kid, and it's a massive drop-off. And defensively speaking, Mike, you're not intimidated when you go up against the Giants, because Singletary's a solid back, but he's nothing really special. You're not losing any sleep. You're not specially game planning for this young man. You're going into the game saying, hey, I have to be able to stop CeeDee Lamb, and that's just what it is.
And again, back to Hard Knocks, we learned from that they blew it with Saquon Barkley, and we also learned they really don't want Daniel Jones. So he's going to have to do a lot to earn another year. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.